Make sure to subscribe to this channel for more videos like this.
Another threat, the return of red tide. Red tide algae blooms are now reappearing along southwest Florida beaches. As meteorologist Jen Carfagno reports, that has beachside businesses like restaurants and hotels a bit worried.
That whole flow, to me, it just screams, hey, we've got some unsettled weather heading your way.
And you can see multiple little spins in there, right? So you've got the main spin up here. You've got another one up there near where it says Seattle. You can see a little piece of that energy down here. So a lot going on and a lot of textures with the clouds, too, with those little cumulus clouds there, likely in the mid-levels. And oftentimes that's indicative of some colder air aloft. And so we do have some cooler times across the region and moisture that's going to be working its way southward. So right now we're getting all the action, say, from the Bay Area on northward. But watch for this to continue to progress southward through the day into tonight and into tomorrow. So we have many winter storm alerts which have been issued. Now, a lot of these were watches, and they're changing over to warnings as we're closer to the event. And that's the case across the Sierras, where a couple of feet of snow is going to be a possibility at the highest elevations. But snow levels are really going to be dropping here. And for the local mountains across Los Angeles, Ventura County, down towards San Bernardino's, we could be seeing snow levels down to about 2,500 feet. Yeah, so we're talking I-5 potentially, and some of their highways being impacted by the snowfall. Now, the rainfall also is going to be an issue. Widespread rain is going to be moving in from Fresno down into Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, even down towards San Diego after a good dosing last week. Here we go again. And this is going to last kind of showery off and on through the day tomorrow as well, before some of that energy eventually begins to eject more into the Four Corners region. But this is kind of a lumbering upper low. The rainfall amounts could be pretty impressive. We could get up to an inch into San Francisco, down towards San Jose, into Los Angeles. We're talking a half of an inch to an inch. And of course, in the foothills, that's likely where we're going to be seeing some of our last round of rain. But our next round of rain is on the way. It's likely to be heavy at times. It's likely to be repetitive. And we'll really have to keep an eye on it because the flood situation could get a little out of hand again in a couple of areas. So here's the setup for it all. We have a frontal boundary, which is going to be slowing down and basically stalling out over time. And we'll get all that moisture kind of focused up along that front to help provide some lift into the atmosphere, and storms tracking in from the southwest towards the northeast across the region. So with repetitive storms over a several days period of time, that's going to add up. And we could be talking about widespread amounts of 1 to 2 inches. A few spots could see as much as 3 to 5 inches of that rainfall right in here. Now, the good news is that this part of the country has been dry, so we can take a little bit of rain, but it might even be too dry that things don't absorb right away and kind of starts to run off. So it might take time to moisten that up. But over here into the Ohio River Valley, into the Mississippi River Valley, that's where we're expecting widespread amounts of 1 to 2 inches, and that may be a little too much. It could more prolong the flood situation than anything else. So river flooding, urban flooding, all possibilities here tomorrow through your Thursday morning. Eastern Kansas through a good portion of Missouri, including especially northern parts of the St. Louis metro area and up towards the Peoria region. Thursday, notice this broad area of showers and thunderstorms. Keep in mind it's not going to rain every minute all day in this entire area, but the risk is there across the whole region. It will likely rain at some point if you live in that dark green spot. Thursday to Friday, we'll be watching the boot heel on up the Ohio River from Evansville to Louisville and even into Cincinnati. And look at your Friday. Notice that this doesn't budge a whole heck of a lot. Unfortunately, this is just another one of those signs of spring. Chris?
Another sign of spring, of course, is when you get these periodic days where it's like, it's warm outside.
It is warm
nice.
in spots today. We're breaking records today already. Yeah.
And it's
in addition to that, we have our stronger winds aloft, which are nosing into the region, and that also as a trigger for lift. So while we've been seeing some thunderstorms across the area right now, it's really later today, late this afternoon and into the evening when our greatest window of opportunity is going to come. We do think a couple of isolated storms could develop that could go severe and possibly even rotate. And that's why we've got torcons here today of 2s and 3s. So say right along I-80 and northward, Des Moines towards Ames, Mason City, Albert Lee. That's where we have torcons of 3. We've got 2 on the periphery of all all that from La Crosse to Waterloo. So if there's a number, there's a risk. The higher the number, the higher the risk. But this whole broad area in general has the risk of hail as well as wind damage. And I really think after the initial start of all of this, we'll see a line that develops and tracks off towards the east. The really cold air is back here. Rapid City, you've just been taken out of the winter weather advisories. Your snowfall rates really starting to taper off and drier air working its way in now. But watch for some of those heavier snow bands to work their way towards Pierre, Aberdeen getting in on the snow as well. So here's a look at your winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings that remain in effect. This really stretches along the I-25 corridor all the way up into the Arrowhead of Minnesota. It's later tonight when you folks really get in on the action. So this is kind of just the beginnings of what's going to be a pretty active rest of the week and into the weekend. Chris, that upper Midwest threat, not as strong probably as what we could see into areas in the southern plains a little bit later on. And it's all related, right? So the same low pressure system in the upper levels of the atmosphere, which is going to be slow and lumbering and bring day after day of severe weather in the plains, is going to bring a prolonged snow event for folks in the Rockies. People in Denver are going to have some serious shoveling to do. Storms last month show the big upper low, which is still way back here. You can see the swirl of that across parts of California. This is the piece that's going to be coming on through later to bring you a much more dynamic snow event. So here's that upper low where we're expecting it to go from the weekend. It's going to be cut off from the main flow of the jet stream, which means it takes a while to get moving. There's nothing to push it along. There's nothing to steer it. Now, in addition to that, of course, low pressure rotates counterclockwise. So that's going to tap into ample moisture coming in from the Gulf of Mexico. Now that moisture is going to get caught up and feed up and over the mountains here into the front range, and we need that extra lift. So as long as you have that moisture flow, as long as you have the winds moving that direction, providing lift up the mountains, it's going to snow. So we're talking about hour after hour after hour of snow. We could potentially be talking about as much as maybe 36 to 40 hours of snow into Denver. So let's time it out. This starts you out tomorrow afternoon. I really think most of Thursday is not going to be a big deal, just a couple of snow showers. And the first half of Friday, maybe not too bad. But it's Friday night into your Saturday, all day Saturday into Saturday night, even into Sunday. This is going to be a weekend where you're going to want to stay at home. Travel is going to be very, very dangerous. On top of this, we're going to have some strong gusty winds, 30 miles per hour or so across the region. So that's going to create issues with visibility. But the kind of snow that's going to be coming down through Monday morning is going to end up being some very heavy, very wet snow. And you combine that with the gusty winds, and it's a possibility that we could see some significant power outages across the region, too. Take a look at these numbers. Take them with a grain of salt, because we're still about 3 days away from the main event. But we are likely talking about double-digit snowfall. Now, the impacts between a foot to 2 feet, I'm not sure how great that is. Either way, you're staying home, right? But that is what we're talking about, potentially, not just into the higher elevations, but even into the eastern plains. So this is going to be a heck of a snow event, we think, especially Saturday into Sunday morning. Chris?
Yeah, even for
starting off with a couple of snowflakes mixing in. So you've got it all here today into the Twin Cities. Welcome back to Weather Center Live, everybody. On this Wednesday, it's hump day. How about that? And we've got a lot going on. 2 storms that we're tracking, and we'll start you out with the active radar, because we've got some good snow that's been coming down across parts of South Dakota into Nebraska here today. And then we've got the rain and the thunderstorms working their way through the Twin Cities and into northwestern parts of Wisconsin. A lot of the convection is now lifting north of Interstate 94. We've got a frontal boundary, a warm front. We're just a little bit uncertainty as to how far north that front is going to get. If it's going to make it into the Twin Cities, we'll get into that milder sector. We'll pop out of the 40s, go into the 50s, or maybe even 60 degrees, and that would increase our chance that a few of these storms could go severe this afternoon or early this evening. But we really think southeastern Minnesota, across north central parts of Iowa, into central Iowa off towards the east. That's where we have torcons today of 2 and a 3. It's on a scale that goes up to 10. 10 is the highest number. So if there's a number, there's a risk. The higher the number, the higher the risk. In addition to all of this, yeah, we've got snow that's been coming down. We've had several inches already, up to 5 to 7 inches in parts of the Black Hills. That snow will continue to spread on the backside of all this and eventually work its way up into the Arrowhead of Minnesota later on for tonight. So this is just kind of the little appetizer. But California, Chris, too, has been getting hit hard. This is where this storm started. And the next one's original lightning with these storms. We also had a little small hail across the area. In Laddie, near Laddie, we did have some nickel-sized hail being reported there. Now we take you into Ohio, where we had some slightly stronger storms trying to work their way through Cincinnati. That is all pulled off towards the east now, and it's all weakened, so that's some good news. But this is rain that's going to be coming down across the Ohio River Basin. Columbus over there at Ohio State University, walking to classes, you're going to need the umbrella for that. Mount Vernon here along I-57, watch out because there's a lot of lightning associated with these storms. I wouldn't be shocked if you got a little bit of small hail out of some of these too. This is really the main area that I'm watching right now for that potential that a few of those storms could get a little dicey from time to time and produce some of that hail and a lot of the lightning here across the region as well. Our cold front trying to stall out across the region. We do have some marginal instability across the area, and that's why a few of the storms could produce some damaging winds or some hail. I think the tornado threat is fairly low, but we have seen a few storms with broad rotation today, so it's not off the table altogether. It's a narrow strip, but it's a long strip, so it does include a lot of real estate from northern parts of Oklahoma through southern Missouri here, southern Illinois, right along the Ohio River into Cincinnati and stretching all the way up towards the Wheeling area. So that's the spots that we're really going to watch as we progress into the night for tonight. The rain so far hasn't been terribly heavy. Most areas picking up less than 1/4 of an inch, but we get these repeated rounds of storms and these clustering of storms, right? So look what the model's doing here west of Evansville at 4 o'clock this afternoon. You know, if that verifies, that could be a really rough evening commute for you in Evansville, and that could be leading to some standing water. Remember, the Ohio River here is still in flood, and that's something to continue to watch in the days to come as those levels expected to stay high now with this additional rain coming on in. So while we don't expect a ton of severe weather today, we're expecting some. The next couple of days do appear more active and widespread. So let's bring in our storm specialist, Mark Elliott, and he has more. Storms widespread here from northeastern Oklahoma through parts of Missouri, working their way throughout the Ohio River Valley. This is going to be the main area in the next couple of hours for the threat of damaging winds and some severe hail potentially as well. Rounds of rain pushing through this region also means that we could see some flash flooding. Day after day, it could add up to anywhere between 3 to 5 inches of rainfall. So flash flood watches have been issued along and south of Interstate 70, and really watching southern Missouri into southern parts of Illinois, even eastern parts of Kansas for that risk area. But still 1 to 3 inches or so into the Ohio River Valley. Not welcome news when the Ohio River there is still in flood, and now we'll stay in flood for a little bit longer as a result of that. And last but certainly not least, this is probably going to overtake the big headlines, right? And we have a major upslope event that's going to be developing in the next couple of days to bring some very heavy snow to the Front Range and the I-25 urban corridor. We're talking about you in Denver. We're talking about you in Cheyenne, where we could get a couple of feet of snow. That's certainly a possibility. This is going to cripple travel, we think, in many areas here across Colorado. Less snow into the plain here because we think there will be some mixing in, but this is going to be the storm to watch for your Saturday and Sunday especially. Let's get to storm specialist Mark Elliott. He is in the lab right now. My debut show last Sunday. I'm just saying, make sure you tune in this Sunday if you haven't seen it yet, and do it anyway. Well, welcome back, by the way, to Weather Center Live on this Thursday. We're starting to see more spring storms now in our forecast. In addition to heavy rain and dangerous winds, those storms have also been producing some hail. And Tori, who is in Denver now, where the time to prepare for this potentially historic storm is running out. We've been really dry, so even though we've had some high clouds, it's been pretty pleasant. We've had cool mornings, you've had warm afternoons, but we're going to work on increasing that moisture, and as our storm gets a little bit closer, it's finally going to be able to squeeze out some rain, which will bring down the pollen a little bit, so at least you have that going for you, right? Rain showers off and on expected to continue into your Tuesday night. We've been under the influence across the southeast under this ridge of high pressure, so that's what's been keeping the temperatures pretty mild in parts of the south. But as we head towards the early part of the next week, that moisture is going to start to surge in from the south. We've got that little dip in our storm getting closer to us, so rain and thunderstorms start to break out. Of course, this is still going on across the Ohio River Valley, across the Tennessee River Valley, areas that don't really need the rain. But this is welcome in a place like Jackson, Montgomery, Birmingham, Atlanta, and even into the Carolinas, where it's going to be arriving as we head into your Monday night. We could get some good soakings here from time to time with some thunderstorms and some heavy downpours. This is going to last into Tuesday, but this area has been dry as of late. Not concerned about flash flooding, but still watching some of those river levels, which have been elevated across eastern parts of the Carolinas. Rainfall totals through the event between Monday and the end of the day on Tuesday, likely up to an inch in more areas. A few spots could get 1 to 2. This weekend marks the start of daylight saving time, which means we all have to set our clocks back an hour. While we will have some extra sunlight into the evening hours, it also has some downsides. Meteorologist Stephanie Abrams talks to the medical experts about what we can do to help our bodies adjust.